Part 2 of the Wednesday Infidelity mod just dropped, and in this video I want to make sure to cover the backstory of this mod, and fair warning, it is a little depressing, and I also want to go over all the characters that are seen in this mod, because they have some interesting characters in the free play, and also some interesting characters that got scrapped. Now the backstory of this mod, as I said, is pretty depressing, because it basically deals with why Mickey ends up going insane. The first thing that triggers Mickey's insanity is the fact that Minnie ends up leaving him for a mouse named Slickers, or aka Mr. Slickers, and this is actually a real character that used to appear back in like 1930s in old Mickey comic strips. And he was usually portrayed as like a taller, and I guess you could argue a more handsome version of Mickey. And in this particular story, he basically takes Minnie and they run away together. And while that was obviously heartbreaking for Mickey, it wasn't the only thing that actually led him to go insane. The next trauma that he had to face was losing 3 of his best friends, that being Donald, Goofy, and Pluto. Donald and Goofy basically got into a terrible car accident in which they both end up losing their lives. And Pluto, on the other hand though, some stories says he got rabies, while others say that he simply ran away with Mr. Slickers and Minnie, which is a better option than dying, obviously. But either way, all of Mickey's friends basically abandoned him either through death or just by simply leaving. I should also note that in some versions of this Mouse AVI creepypasta, even his brother Oswald tries to come and help Mickey, but the two of them end up getting into a fight and Mickey basically loses the only family that he has left as well. And this is where we get to the part of the mod where Mickey basically starts to take drugs in order to numb the pain of all the loss that he's experienced, and when he's walking down the street, he actually runs into Boyfriend. And in this mod, this version of Boyfriend seems to be native to this Mickey universe, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, interestingly enough, part 2 has 2 endings. We have a good ending, which arguably isn't really that good of an ending, and we have a bad ending, which is definitely pretty rough. Now, the only way that you can achieve the good ending is by missing fewer than 3 times during the mod. And you'll know if you accomplish this because you'll be greeted with a scene where Mickey basically attempts to attack Boyfriend, but before he can do that, Minnie will appear. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Minnie basically is going to explain that she never actually loved Mr. Slickers and that Mickey didn't really see what he thought he saw, meaning that it was all just a misunderstanding. This is definitely one of the best examples of gaslighting I think I've ever seen, but surprisingly, Mickey actually believes her. Mickey basically understands that it was a mistake and he starts to regain his sanity and come back to his regular self. And he basically wants to sing one more song with Boyfriend to kind of celebrate the fact that he's going to get his relationship back and he doesn't want to unalive himself anymore. And if you're like me, you probably foolishly believed that this mod was going to have a happy ending, which it doesn't. Mickey literally explodes into a puddle of blood, and then he wakes up in a cave where he sees this little old man that actually turns out to be Satan. And it seems that Satan's whole goal here is to basically never let Mickey be happy again and to keep him down here in hell where he can torture him for all eternity. And let me remind you, this is supposed to be the good ending. Now, since I explained the good ending, I suppose I should explain the bad ending real quick, but I'm going to skirt around a couple of words because I'm pretty sure YouTube will demonetize talking about this one. So basically, Mickey takes an object and points it to his head in order to unalive himself. Before he does this, Boyfriend actually goes through a portal and ends up into another landscape completely. Now, what we don't immediately know is that Boyfriend actually ends up in hell. When he arrives there, he sees Mickey and everything seems to be okay initially. Mickey even helps him up, but then Satan comes out and basically jump scares Boyfriend. And then Satan forces Boyfriend to battle against Mickey in hell, and Mickey looks like an absolute maniac here. In my opinion, I would say that both of these are bad endings, but maybe I'm just missing something. The next character that I want to talk about in this mod is going to be Julian, or aka Monkey, and this character is interesting because even though he looks kind of like a doll or a Muppet version of Mickey, it is actually a real creature there. Now, this character is actually based off a Mickey lookalike that was seen in a film called The March of the Wooden Soldier back in 1934. The fun fact here is that Julian was actually a monkey in a Mickey costume. An interesting fact here is that a lot of people are actually mad that they used a real monkey because a lot of people feared for the monkey's safety. They said that the suit didn't seem to have any holes in it or any way for the monkey to breathe effectively, so they were really actually worried about the animal. From my understanding though, everything turned out okay and the monkey was fine. A couple of other things that I want to point out here as well for this song is that the background and the man that's in a cat costume playing the cello are also directly from March of the Wooden Soldier as well, and I like how in this mod they actually took it basically point from the movie. Another fun fact about this song specifically is that Julian originally was going to be rejected as just a scrapped character, but it turned out that they liked his ideas so much that they went ahead and fleshed it out and gave him his own songs, which obviously turned out very well. The next character we see in this mod is called Cheddar, and Cheddar is interesting because he's not based off any type of creepypasta or urban legend. Cheddar is based off a piece of artwork that was found on display at a school, and it was basically this clay version of Mickey that was stuck onto a wooden plank. And inscribed in the wood was actually the words, "Father, I crave cheddar." And I think the reason that this Mickey stood out so much is because the creator made his body so lanky and his mouth so elongated that people just were so disturbed by the image itself. And in all honesty, I would love to see people do a creepypasta or just some cool artwork on this character. The next character on our list is Imposter Mouse, and I definitely didn't expect to see an Among Us version of Mouse AVI in this mod. One thing that I do find kind of interesting about this character though is that he has a crack in his visor, and if you look into it, all you see is basically a void. Usually with the imposters, if there's a crack or a cut in their suit, you can actually see like the alien underneath that. But with Imposter Mouse, you actually see just nothing but darkness, which in my opinion is much more terrifying. Imposter Mouse kind of reminds me of the Void Sonic, where basically if you get caught by him, you're just stuck in a void and forced to float there forever, which is horrifying. The next character that we see actually pops up in a free play, and that's going to be Moki. And I was kind of surprised to see this character because I feel like he popped up a lot when Friday Night Funkin' first came out, and then he kind of died out a little bit. For those that I don't know, Moki is a character that was created by Senior Palo, who is also the same person that came out with the Spooky Boys, aka Skid and Pump. And as you can tell, Moki is basically like a parody version of Mickey Mouse, which is why he's so poorly drawn, but you can still obviously tell that he's supposed to be Mickey Mouse. If any of you do know Moki, you are probably familiar with one of his most famous episodes where he actually saves Christmas, or as he calls it, Christmas. And a fact that I found interesting about Moki is that even though sometimes he does do heroic deeds in a way, he's actually known to be kind of a cruel character that will basically do whatever he wants. Now, some people state that this is Senior Palo's way of actually talking about the corruption that goes on at Disney, or of course it could just be him making a funny character. The next character that we see in the free play is called Euthanasia Rabbit, and if you don't know what the word euthanasia means, it basically means to do a mercy killing. So when somebody doesn't have the ability to recover, or they have a disease that is terminal, which basically means that they will not be able to be cured, in some places in the world a mercy killing is acceptable. Now, the reason that Oswald goes by this name is because technically he lost the love of his life, so he's a widower, and he wants to be reunited with his lost love. But since she is no longer alive, the only way he can do that is by unaliving himself. But here's where the bad part comes in. Oswald is known as the Lucky Rabbit, and he actually is lucky, which means that no matter how hard he tries, he just can't die. And this is why he literally survives getting a piece of his face blown off. Even though his backstory is pretty short, it is really sad actually. Hopefully they flesh this one out a little bit more because it's really interesting. The next characters that we see in the mod are going to be Luis and Felipe, and these are basically two people who leaked this mod before it was actually officially out. And I have no respect for leakers, so I'm not going to talk anymore about these two clowns. The last character that I do want to talk about though is a scrapped character that goes by the name of Schizo, and he's actually a character that originates from an animated series of the same name on YouTube. And while we don't know a whole lot about him, we know that he's basically a huge murderous bear, and his name Schizo comes from the word meaning schizophrenia, obviously. We also know that his design is based off the artwork from like the early 1920s, and this is why he's holding like a old-timey type microphone in his hand. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video where I go over the Santiago mod, or check out this video where I talk about the Mistful Crimson Morning mod. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Peace, peace.